So today we're going to learn how to disassemble a game bird. So disassembling a game bird is fairly straightforward with just a few minor caveats. Caveats? A few minor things you got to know. So for one, we have to take this front panel off in the buttons. We have to take this button out, this power switch, and then we have to carefully remove it so that we don't pull this jack off of the board. And yeah, so let me go ahead. The easiest way is to put your fingernails in this groove, like this, and grab it like this, and then you just kind of pop it. Then you want to carefully hold it upside down and peel this over. So here we have all the buttons on one side. We have the game deck, or the game hat. One thing to note is there's a little ball bearing that you don't want to lose. It's just kind of loose in there. It generally stays put, but this helps with the D-pad to rock around properly without pushing more than 2 buttons at any given time. So, okay, so now we have that. We need to carefully remove the power switch. So you're going to try and hold the board still, and you want to push this to the very middle, like that. And then you need some kind of a flat tool, and I like to use tweezers, but you can use kind of anything you got. I'll just use this thing here. So it's kind of hard to see, but you want to get behind it and see if I can get the light in there. You just want to get behind it and just kind of push it forward so that it comes out like that. So now it's off the power switch, and if I pull this out, you'll see it has a little notch which goes over the top of that switch in there. It just sits on there, and then it just slides back and forth. That's how the power switch works. So now that we've got that out of the way, put our tool aside. There's really nothing else holding this thing in place at this point. There is a audio jack here that we need to be careful of because it sits flush with the surface. So if we were to just pull this thing out, it would catch. And I have ripped them off in the past, so I am careful not to do that now. So what you want to do, since you have these L and R buttons, you want to be careful not to get them jammed while you're pulling this out. To do that, you just hold it so that the buttons are facing downward, so they're held in place by gravity. So once we do that, we just want to grab right here above the jack and push down just a little bit like this, just enough so that it can slide out. You don't want to break it. You just want to bend it just a tiny bit. And you want to give it a little bit of a shake. You can see it pops right out. And then you want to carefully grab it around the edges of the board. You don't want to touch the electronics if you can help it. Most of the electronics on the hat, though, are actually underneath or even inside, so that's not something that you really have to worry too much about, or on top. Okay, so we're going to set this down with the buttons facing downward, and here you can see there's the switch. I'm just going to push this to the off position. There's the battery, there's the Raspberry Pi, there's the game hat. Over here we have the card. Pull that out. In this particular case for my son, I used a Samsung 32, but all of the newer ones are 64 PNY. So there you go. Yeah, and don't forget you have that ball bearing. That is another piece that you don't want to lose. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's a couple of risers here. These are loose and they can fall out if you were to bend this back a little. Those can come right out. You don't want to lose these. They keep it at just the right height. This one has multicolored, but usually they're the same color. So down inside here you can see we have a speaker. And that just sits deep in the middle there. Yeah, really not much else to say. If you wanted to continue disassembling so that you could replace a part, the next place where you would want to start, you would want to pull this off, because at this point it's just hanging on by these, this is always kind of sketchy, but you can kind of rock it back and forth and pull like this, and you can get that off the pins. I'm going to set that there. And the next thing you would want to do is pull these off. They're not going to be super tight. They're just tight enough to hold it in place. So you can usually undo them just by hand. Or you could get a little tool if you needed to. You can peel those off. And then once you do take this board off, and it just pops off, there's nothing else holding it on, because it's using these little dropper pins. I forget what those are called. And then if you needed to remove these risers for whatever reason, or install new ones, you just have some little tiny screws back here. So for that, you just need a small screwdriver. Let's see, I think I got one around here. Here we go. Something like this, just a small Phillips. And yeah, and then you can take those off. And that way you could replace the battery if you needed to in the future. These are, you know, WaveShare UPS Hat C. So that would be totally doable if you needed to replace the Raspberry Pi for whatever reason. If you needed to replace this part, just a Game Pi 13 from WaveShare, then you could easily swap parts out if necessary. So that's pretty much it. Alright, thanks for watching.